This basketball game for 1 hour of post-game recap. The Nebraska Basketball Postgame Show is sponsored by Union Bank and Trust, John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical, and the Lincoln Airport on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
MHC isn't a new company, just a new name. Moe's Moving is now Moe's Home and Commercial. Whether moving across town or across the state, MHC Moving has you covered, specializing in home, apartment, assisted, and independent living moves. MHC can handle your commercial moves as well. MHC Moving has zero hidden fees. You'll never pay for same-day booking or be charged for stairs, heavy items, or elevator fees. Rates are the same Monday through Saturday, and you will never pay a truck or fuel surcharge. And they offer payment plans through PayPal. Call MHC Moving today at 402-853-7167 or go to mhcmoving.com.
Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services is here to help you protect things that are most important to you. Whether it's your home, your family, or your future, Jack Russell has the proven experience to get the job done while developing authentic relationships with you. Give Jack a call today at 402-421-9100. Again, that's 402-421-9100. Or visit one of his 2 locations in Lincoln or Seward and learn how you can excel in the complicated world of insurance. Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, a trusted and well-respected representative since 1999.
Let's fly. Your next trip starts at Lincoln Airport with American Airlines. Now flying nonstop service to Dallas, Fort Worth, and Chicago. American Airlines connects Lincoln to major hubs and destinations around the globe. Wherever you're headed, LNK gets you there with new nonstop flights on American Airlines.
Now boarding.
Convenient, fast, and stress-free. Book your next flight at lincolnairport.com. LNK, make flying easy.
Want to make the easy call? Call John Henry's. From leaky pipes to a broken AC, flickering lights to furnace fights, even drains and duct cleaning, we've got it handled. Plumbing, heating, air, and electrical, all under one trusted roof. Proudly serving homes across Lincoln, Omaha, and surrounding areas and ready 24/7. Visit calljh.com or call
John Henry's.
435-5555. John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air.
and electrical.
Have you been looking for home technology upgrades but don't know where to turn? Online information can be contradicting and confusing. Lincoln's own experts at Diode Technologies can turn your living room into the place to watch your favorite sports. Whatever your vision is, Diode Tech is ready to make it a reality. From home theaters to outdoor entertainment spaces, they bring you along through the entire process to make sure you get exactly what you want. If you're ready to upgrade your entertainment space, visit Diode Tech online at diodetech.net or give them a call at 402-793-5124.
Welcome into the post-game post-up. Nebraska basketball just finished up another game. Hustle down to the block and get position.
Shot clock to 7. Hoiberg missed. Got his own rebound. Right back up. Missed it.
There he is. Garcia. How big has he been down the stretch for this Nebraska ball club?
10 points all in the second half. Now the lead back to 3.
Join 93.7 The Ticket to break down the best players and key moments from today's action.
Sanford a couple of steps from behind the line. And now Lawrence from the corner. He hits. And another eruption from all the red and Lincoln. Not even close. Grayson has not been able to hit anything. 0 for 8 from distance. Prager gets some space. He connects.
Post-game coverage of Nebraska basketball on The Ticket is sponsored by Union Bank and Trust, the Lincoln Airport, Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, and John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical.
Here we gotta go.
Now to 5. Hoiberg kicks it out. Lawrence for the win.
It's the post-game post-up on 93.7 The Ticket.
Behold, a God who bleeds. The nation's longest win streak no longer belongs to Nebraska. 20-1 as Michigan takes down Nebraska. Final score of 75-72. Welcome in to coverage of Nebraska men's basketball post game here on 93.7 The Ticket. Austin Norman, Harrison Arndt, potentially DP in the house over the course of the next hour as well. Big thanks to all our sponsors who make this possible: Union Bank and Trust, John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical, the Lincoln Airport, and Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services. We'll tell you more about them throughout the course of the show. Big thanks as well to Sartor Heyman Jewelers, sponsoring our text line 402-464-5685. Harrison, I don't want this to be the story. I don't want this to dominate everything else that's going on. But a bunch of the texts that I've been receiving from family and friends, and we have this from Husker, just Googled famous blind people, and the ref crew from Tonight showed up. And Babalu, I hope in the presser, Hoiberg says something about fouls, no charge call when Berke fell on a guy. It's the same thing as giving a shooter room to land, yada, yada. You're going to look at the free throw disparity in this game and see that Nebraska took a whopping 4 free throws all game, all from Price Sanford. He took 2 trips to the line, 1 2-shot foul in each half. Michigan, on the flip side, goes 19 of 23 from the free throw line and was 14 of 17 at the free throw line in the second half. And if you look at those raw numbers, you look at the fouls, right? Nebraska whistled for 19 fouls and Michigan for 11. Like, yeah, it's probably a ref show. What are these guys doing? Do they know what they're doing? I want to immediately push back on the narrative that the refs lost Nebraska this game. Was it a perfectly officiated game? Absolutely not. That call on Sam Hoiberg, Nebraska didn't get it at the end. 50-50 call, borderline call. Jumping into the shooter looked like a bailout, looked a little floppy, as did the one on Elliott Cadell. But what did Michigan do? They got into the paint. They wanted to dominate the paint. They sent bodies to the glass. The fouls I have the biggest issue with are the ones on Cale Jacobson for boxing out. I thought there were 3 of those that were incredibly ridiculous. But Michigan also drew fouls by getting downhill, by establishing paint position, and using their advantage. That's what they did. I get it. Husker fans are frustrated. I get it. It looks bad from the raw numbers on the surface. Don't blame the officials for losing Nebraska this game. Credit Michigan for upping its defensive intensity in the second half. Price Sanford and Jamarcus Lawrence were nails in the first half. You could see Michigan's length, athleticism, and legs kind of wore Nebraska down. Those two guys play 39 minutes and 35 minutes, respectively. Nebraska went cold, just 1 of 13 from 3 in the second half. Nebraska led this game for 36 minutes and 18 seconds. Michigan led it for about 39 seconds in the first half. And then, unfortunately for Husker Nation, Michigan also led it for the most important minute and 7 seconds there at the end of the game. A hard-fought battle. Nebraska falls 75-72. Just your initial thoughts here, Harrison.
Yeah, I mean, I'll play devil's advocate a little bit. Officiating wasn't the reason that the Huskers lost, but, you know, the points in the paint, 32-38. So it's not like the Huskers weren't attacking downhill. Now, to your point, Michigan was being a little bit more aggressive about it. Go ahead. Yeah, well, to that point, right, 38 points in the paint from Michigan. That's kind of what you expected from them. 32 from Nebraska. But it wasn't dribble drive. You know, it wasn't Nebraska. Nebraska did a good job, I thought, of not challenging the shot blocker. I thought sometimes they got a little bit spooked. You know, sometimes you want to make sure you're being patient, not just going at a guy like Ademara recklessly. He's one of the best rim defenders in the country in blocks in terms of just on-off field goal percentage at the rim, right? He's good. They lead the country, or top 10 in the country in block percentage, right? Nebraska, with its smaller guys, can't just go in there and flail up shots recklessly. I thought there were times Nebraska looked a little bit hesitant going to the rim, even if they might have had an angle on Mara. But that's a testament, again, to Michigan. I thought Nebraska could have been a little bit more aggressive going at Merez Johnson when he was the only, traditional big man in the game, but they weren't. And that would have helped Nebraska, a team that likes to play in an up and down sort of game. They don't like to take the ball out of the net if they can help it. But this is a game where if you maybe challenge the shot blocker a time or two, get into the bonus, at least closer to when Michigan did. Nebraska, I don't know if they even got there in the second half. Michigan was close. They were fouling to waste time at the end. I have a few to give. But that was a choice by Nebraska to not attack it downhill. It worked out at times. It didn't work out at others. And I get it. There were questionable calls, right? That's not at all what I'm saying, that it was a perfect game from the officials. I'm saying Nebraska did not make a concerted effort to get downhill and put the pressure on Michigan to defend the rim. Nebraska would get into the paint and they would keep their dribble alive, which is, I think, good decision-making for the most part. They can't just go in there and throw up shots wildly. But you also saw how hard it was for Nebraska to get downhill. Most of those points in the paint for Nebraska were Michigan falling asleep and elite movement by Nebraska, right? That's how Nebraska was always going to get points at the rim in this one. Draw the shot blocker away,
cut behind him, do some of that whirly bird action. That's the technical term, by the way. The whirly bird action is the basketball terminology for it. And that's how Nebraska got its points in the paint. 1927 says, awful take and another trash take. Corey said, I think you're right about being more aggressive, but they couldn't with the whistles. I don't quite understand what you mean by that, Corey. In 68-79, how in the world is Sam getting run over a 50-50 call? Sam was in good guarding position. Sam was not in perfect guarding position. McKinney is a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger than Sam, right? In that, if Sam had been planted in front of him, that's absolutely a charge. I think he took one of those earlier in the game. I know Jacobson did as well. It's bang, bang. Think about it. Would you rather have, obviously, the best outcome for Nebraska there is wave the basket off. It's a charge going Nebraska's way. It just as easily could have been called a block because Sam was there in good time, not perfect time, but he wasn't there planted. It wasn't obvious. And if that's the call that you want to say lost Nebraska the game, I'm going to disagree. Cale Jacobson and the box out fouls that added up then, those were ridiculous. I thought Cadeau got away with a little bit of a flop.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways.
Well, no, I mean, I get your point. I think I'm more on the side of the officiating. And again, a lot of the first half, I'll have to go back and watch it. Maybe it was more fair, but to me that stuck out is we just missed a lot of shots, from a lot of what I've seen. That we had some great 3-point opportunities where, the guys were open. They just weren't getting their feet set right, or they're kind of fumbling the pass, especially at the end there. We had that with Marcus Lawrence. We had a really great look, but kind of fumbled the pass a little bit. And same thing, just around the rim. We did have some bunnies, even times where we, were in the paint and we had a good look. Berkay Bertie-Uchtengel, he had a few really good looks and just couldn't finish them. That offense went ice cold. So as much as, we can say, I thought, the refs weren't really helping us out. They're getting a lot of free throws from Michigan. Our offense just wasn't doing anything. It's one thing to allow the free throws to give Michigan lead, but on off, if you're going to not score anything on offense, Michigan's going to catch up eventually.
You score 50 points in the first half, 22 in the second. Let's head back to our starter, Heyman Jewelers text line. Old Dad 34. Nebraska basketball may not lose another game if they play like they did tonight. Dave in Fullerton, heck of an effort, just went cold late, and Michigan got to the line. Crowbait, for missing a couple starters and having the next man up mentality, all in all, Nebraska played pretty well.
That's where Frager, real quick, like when you're talking about getting guys that can attack aggressively downhill, I think that's where we really miss Frager because he's one of those more athletic guys. When we see what he can do when driving to the lane, to kind of really try to punish those guys if they're out of position. And without him, I think you saw a lot of, the whirly birds because we didn't have guys that were super confident going at those trees.
Yeah. Maston Frager play. Nebraska wins by 10. 0-1-5-9, 20-1. Let's move on to the next game. They're still going to go dancing this March, 81-94. So proud of these guys. They were shorthanded and played their butts off. Now, I will say the shot selection the last 3 minutes is something we haven't seen all year. It really, ultimately, I think this does come down to the legs. If you look at the rotation for Nebraska in this one, it was Hoiberg, Buchtengel, Lawrence, Sanford, and Jacobson to start. Jacobson only played 28 minutes, a little bit more than normal for him. He had those fouls early in the second half that sent him to the bench very briefly. But really, Nebraska only got 23 minutes from the bench, 10 from Jared Garcia, and 13 from Leo Curtis, who had 6 points and a rebound for him. But you put up 50 points in the first half. You allow 48 if you're Nebraska. You knew both coaches were going to harp on the defense at halftime. The numbers for Nebraska in the first half, 19 of 32 and 10 of 19 from three-point range. Michigan, 19 of 29, so 3 more shot attempts for Nebraska. Michigan went 5 of 13 from 3. The first half paint points, Michigan scored over half of their points in the paint, 28-16. They also had 6 second chance points in that one. The biggest thing that I think kept Nebraska in that game was the 3-point shooting in the first half, Harrison. But I talked about it all day. Michigan just has a propensity to give the ball away. There were some really goofy ones, some overly aggressive ones, some really just funky turnovers from Michigan. The Wolverines end up with 19 turnovers on the game, and Nebraska does get 13 points off of them. But Michigan forces 11 Nebraska turnovers, a few more than normal for Nebraska. They were incredibly efficient on them, though. 17 points off of 11 Nebraska turnovers. The Huskers did everything they had to do in the first half. They get up by 11. Michigan, as you expect, though, top 5 team in the country at home, wasn't going to go away.
Yeah, and especially when those turnovers, they're just such a big team that if they get you on a mismatch or if they get you on a 3-on-2 or a 3-on-1 situation, it's going to be tough to cover all those guys. But to get to some of the text line here, because as much as this loss might hurt, I know a lot of people are pretty proud of what they saw out there. Again, without Mast Frager, you still were playing on the road versus a number 3 Michigan Wolverines team who not a lot of people were writing that Huskers even stood a chance. This one, 8194, says, I'm so proud of these guys. They were shorthanded and played their butts off. Again, you're going to keep getting these with the calls. The calls the last 5 minutes all went to Michigan. I will say the shot selection last 3 minutes, something I haven't seen all year. I know you got a little bit to that one. And 8 missed points in the paint in the second half, 3 missed at the rim by Burke, and a missed layup from Hoiberg were huge. That one from 2915.
Yeah, Burke had a couple looks around the rim that they were tough. They were going at Adaimara a couple points in there. And again, that's an elite shot blocker. That is an elite rim protector in the college game. Burke a little bit on the move as well. The one that stands out to me, though, is the baseline out of bounds play. Burke jumped right over, I think it was Morez Johnson Jr., had the tip. It hit everything except the bottom of the net, right? That's the one that stands out to me. Sam's miss was a tough one. But overall, I mean, if you're Nebraska and you score 32 points in the paint against the number 1 2-point defense in the country, that's a testament to your offensive system in the way it works, especially in the first half there, Harrison. Nebraska was leveraging the threat of the 3-pointer, the way Sanford was hitting, and especially the way Jamarcus Lawrence was hitting and keeping Nebraska really afloat in those first 10 minutes, helping extend that lead. In that first half, you really saw the benefits of running the system that Nebraska does. It got the threes, but it also got Nebraska all the way to the rim against a team that doesn't let many teams at the rim.
Yeah, and that was, really impressive. Again, was the points in the paint. Although we weren't getting a ton of fouls off of it, you still saw a lot of ability to get downhill and attack those teams if they're not always paying attention. And, I know the first half was really incredible. Give me a little bit of just like that Jamarcus Lawrence electric start that kind of gave Nebraska that burst and, got to prove right out of the gate that they belong there, and they're one of the top 10 teams and top 5 teams in the country. So
Nebraska's first 2 threes of the game, I didn't think were great looks necessarily. The third one went to Jamarcus Lawrence. He knocks it down, and then Berke Buchtengel hit a 3 from the corner off some movement that was just beautiful, tantalizing potential. And then that's really where Jamarcus Lawrence took over. I think he had 16 points on 6 of 10 or 6 of 9 shooting by the U12 timeout. 4 of 6 from range. One of them was a kind of a curl off of movement. He thought that he was contacted, so he put it up trying to draw the foul. Did not get the call on that one, but did end up getting the 3 to go, which was a really nice look for him. And then I think it was right after that, he ended up with an offensive rebound and putback. Sanford drove, couldn't get it to go. Lawrence crashes and puts it in. I think that was his 16th point. Don't quote me on that. But Jamarcus Lawrence was great. And then I don't think he scored the rest of the first half after that. And credit Michigan, right? They are long, they are rangy, they are athletic, and they communicated a lot better on defense in that second half. But Harrison, I want to revisit this. When we talk about Nebraska's offense, you put up 50 points and a half against Michigan, pretty tough to do. Nebraska actually moved up a spot in KenPom despite the loss today. Michigan doesn't really have their rating change.
Think about how that team performed.
Yeah.
I mean, you held Michigan to a pretty low score, and you yourself were able to put some serious points on.
Yeah. But Michigan, the number 2 2-point defense in the country, allowing opponents to hit just 41.8% of their shots there. The second best adjusted defensive efficiency team in the country with a defensive rating of less than 90, which is incredibly good behind only Michigan State, who had themselves a dogfight at Rutgers today. But at one point in the first half, Nebraska scored on 9 consecutive possessions against that Michigan team. That tells you the ceiling of this Nebraska team, and it's clicking on all cylinders.
Well, and again, I think a lot of people are going to be pretty not happy with this loss, but feel pretty confident because, we got a tough schedule ahead here that we won't get all the way into. We'll have, more of the week to talk about it, but with Purdue, Illinois, you got one in between there. It's going to be a tough schedule. So you like to see this out of this Nebraska team to go out there. You're down 2 starters. You really put it on Michigan. A team who on paper is going to have all the matchups, quote unquote, against you outside of maybe some perimeter defense. And Nebraska, I think, was able to really kind of catch them reeling for a bit. But that's what you credit Michigan. I mean, they're a good team. Good teams usually perform in the second half, and that's exactly what you saw there. You got a lot of people on YouTube. I'm trying to find the ones that aren't ref related. I know that there is a very good conversation point, and you guys will probably hear it tomorrow.
Right. We'll cover it again, but we got it out of our system. We're going to talk about the game moving.
Real quickly before we go to our first break here, Cale Jacobson. I thought he was phenomenal given the role he was in. And, a lot of our guys had to play heavy minutes. Cale Jacobson certainly got a bump up in his, but I thought, from him being out there, he was efficient.
Yeah, Cale in the spot start ends up with 8 points on 4 of 6 shooting. Just 1 rebound, which it kind of surprises me, and no assists for him. But the moment absolutely did not look too big. Cale Jacobson looked incredibly comfortable and ready to live up to that moment. 6 points for him in the first half, I believe it was. No, 2 points for him in the first half, rather. Only took 1 shot. And then in the second half, Cale Jacobson ended up with 6 points on 5 shots and a rebound for him, which was pretty good. The one that'll, I think, stick in my head is he, against Minnesota, had that Ray Allen backpedaling 3 from the corner. It looked kind of like Game 6 of the 2013 finals. And then today he looked like Steve Nash. I think you were the one that called that out as we were watching. Did the whole snake dribble, had the big Adaimara out on an island, said, oh, cool, I'll take that. Thank you very much, and dropped it in for 2. Yeah, really good game for Cale Jacobson in a spot start. He looked like he belonged. Yeah. What a testament to him and the Nate Lenzer, developmental plan.
Yeah, another texter, 9821, will you shout out our sponsor. He said, Jacobson on our bench played up a notch. That was refreshing. We will be a better team from this. Sherry from Georgia. We got fans all the way out there in Georgia. Again, you guys are welcome to join in. 402-464-5685. Love hearing from you. Facebook, YouTube, X, Al Channel 961. The streams as well.
Big thanks to Union Bank and Trust for sponsoring our post-game coverage. You can get a great rate on 6, 12, or 24-month CD with Union Bank and Trust. Learn more at ubt.com. As Harrison told you, 402-464-5685 is the number. Join the show. May or may not hear from Nick Sainert live from Ann Arbor after the press conferences are done, but we'll be back with more Nebraska basketball postgame after this.
Have you been looking for home technology upgrades but don't know where to turn? Online information can be contradicting and confusing. Lincoln's own experts at Dio Technologies can turn your living room into the place to watch your favorite sports. Whatever your vision is, Dio Tech is ready to make it a reality. From home theaters to outdoor entertainment spaces, they bring you along through the entire process to make sure you get exactly what you want. If you're ready to upgrade your entertainment space, visit Diotech online at diotech.net or give them a call at 402-793-5124.
Let's fly. Your next trip starts at Lincoln Airport with American Airlines. Now flying nonstop service to Dallas, Fort Worth, and Chicago. American Airlines connects Lincoln to major hubs and destinations around the globe. Wherever you're headed, LNK gets you there with new nonstop flights on American Airlines. Now boarding. Convenient, fast, and stress-free. Book your next flight at LincolnAirport.com. LNK, make flying easy.
MWR, a local company of Lincoln, is proud to announce they are able to offer their own post-frame building packages in metal to anyone desiring a building, whether you're a contractor or a DIYer. They can install your building as always, and they offer multiple different rib profiles and loads of color options, including the wood grain metal at great competitive prices. You can inquire at mwrbuildingandfence.com or just draw your desired building and submit it in their contact us page, and they'll get back to you. Call MWR today at 402-540-8966.
At Anderson Ford, we have commission-free guides who are paid to give you a great experience, not make a sale, so you can choose the best vehicle for you. Right now at Anderson Ford, lease a 2025 Ford Escape for $222 per month. Experience better at Anderson Ford. Stock number 4003618. Lease for $222 per month for 36 months with approved credit. 7,500 miles per year. 5,000 plus first payment due at signing. No security deposit required. Tax, title, and license fees extra. Residency restrictions apply. Must take new retail delivery from Anderson Auto Group by 2226.
Bauer Underground has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know that the best workers in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and a pedigree of success. They're offering top-notch benefits, a matching 401k, and a $600 per year clothing allowance. Bauer Underground, a family-friendly company with plenty of room for advancement.
With UBT, you've got total control over your money. Like Doug, who runs his game day tailgate like a well-oiled machine.
I got burgers, brats, chicken, dogs, plus all the fixins. And with the UBT Go app, I can track my food spending from anywhere.
Pro move.
They don't call me Grill Sergeant for nothing.
No matter your goals, UBT helps you feel good about reaching them. Union Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
Want to make the easy call? Call John Henry's. From leaky pipes to a broken AC, flickering lights to furnace fights, even drains and duct cleaning, we've got it handled. Plumbing, heating, air, and electrical, all under one trusted roof. Proudly serving homes across Lincoln, Omaha, and surrounding areas, and ready 24/7. Visit calljh.com or call
John Henry's.
435-5555. John Henry's Plumbing.
and electrical.
Eustis Body Shop started as a single shop in Eustis in 1979. Since then, we've been getting Nebraskans back on the road. We treat our customers right and have never forgotten our roots, even as we've grown to 8 locations across the state. That's why Eustis Body Shop works hard to ensure our customer safety and offers free loaner cars to keep you moving. Eustis Body Shop, where our customers send their friends.
The most recommended Eustis Body Shop. That's who we are.
Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services is here to help you protect things that are most important to you. Whether it's your home, your family, or your future, Jack Russell has the proven experience to get the job done while developing authentic relationships with you. Give Jack a call today at 402-421-9100. Again, that's 402-421-9100. Or visit one of his 2 locations in Lincoln or Seward and learn how you can excel in the complicated world of insurance. Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, a trusted and well-respected representative since 1999.
Now back to the post-game post-up on 93.7 The Ticket. Post-game coverage of Nebraska basketball on The Ticket is sponsored by Union Bank and Trust, the Lincoln Airport, Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, and John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical. It's the post-game post-up on 93.7 The Ticket.
Welcome back in. Nebraska men's basketball postgame here on The Ticket. Austin Norman and Harrison Arendt with you. Brought to you in part by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical. Proudly serving the Lincoln, Omaha, and surrounding areas. John Henry's can assist you with any service like electrical maintenance, installation, or repair. Call today, 402-809-1159, or go to jhlincoln.com. I'm Austin. He's Harrison. You are you. Appreciate you listening in. Let's just head straight back to our starter, Heyman Jewelers text line. Sandman at 460. Love the way these guys play together. Can't wait to play Iowa. Okay, that's a ways down the road. I'm not going to look quite that far forward. 75-43. Great game to be outmatched in size and still keep the game close. And again, lead for the majority of the game. Michigan only led for about 2 minutes and 6 seconds of this, maybe 2 minutes and 3 seconds officially per the stat broadcast. Nebraska led for 36 minutes and 18 seconds of this game, which I think, Harrison, is why this one might feel a little bit like that kick in the gut. You can apply all the context around it that you want, right? Mass trying to go through warmups and then ultimately unavailable. Braden Frager still not back. You also had Sam Hoiberg kind of wincing with his left shoulder after he got tangled up with Will Cheddar. DeMarcus Lawrence took a hard fall and looked a little gimpy there at the end of the game. Obviously, Barricade Buchtenjel was going through with some of the battles that he was doing down low.
Well, just
Hale
real
Jacobson
quick,
got hit.
To point out your point, I mean, it was 36 minutes for Buchtenjel, 39 for Sanford, 28 for Jacobson, 35 for Lawrence, 39 from Hoiberg. That was a lot of wear and tear in minutes. And maybe that's why the three-point shot in the legs were a little bit, the legs weren't underneath them towards the end.
Right. And it's been probably a quick kind of travel turnaround. I mean, you were in Minnesota on Saturday. You left for Michigan on Monday, and you're there today already shorthanded. And that's just the context behind all of this, because you go 1 of 13 from 3.5, you're not going to win many games unless, of course, like you're Michigan, you do get to the free throw line. You go 14 of 17 in the second half, which is more than half of their second half points. Michigan puts up 27 in the second half, 14 of them from the free throw line. But Nebraska's last points of the game came on a beautiful layup off a nice curl from DeMarcus Lawrence. Heck of a pass from Barricade Buchtenjel to get it to him. That put Nebraska back up by 3 points at 72-69. But then after that, everything dried up. I wonder if DeMarcus Lawrence catches that last attempt that he got clean from the top of the key. If it doesn't go down, Sanford had a couple good looks, but they weren't the same quality that he got overall from the first half. And Nebraska went scoreless for the final 3:21 of that game, whereas Michigan ended the game on a 6-0 run over the final 3:05. We've gotten so used, Harrison, to Nebraska being the team that's stronger at the end of the game, to Nebraska finding a way to make that one more play. I'm not going to say which factor it was or it wasn't, but I think the combination of factors, the entire context goes into it. Ultimately, you're just one possession short of sending it to overtime. And you had a couple different looks to send that one to overtime. I don't think this game distills down to any one play there in the last minute. I think it just comes down to Nebraska probably got tired because Nebraska was shorthanded and because they're going against an elite defense. These things add up, they wear on you. And ultimately, for the first time this year, Nebraska wasn't the one to make the play at the end of the game.
Well said. And with that being said, we actually got a man who was down there on site at location in Michigan. We do got Nick Sainert joining us here. Bringing in Nick Sainert, of course. This is the Husker Hoops postgame show. You guys are welcome to join in. Nick Sainert, know you made the travels down there. What are some of the just main takeaways from that game?
What a ball game, guys. What a ball game. Here's the deal. Coming into the game, Rink, so Fred kind of told us at the end there that it was about 12 minutes before the game tipped off. He said, I went up to Rink and asked him, okay, how do you feel? And he said that even up to that point, Rink wasn't able to keep anything down. And he's like, Coach, I just can't go. And so I thought this certainly is not a team, and Sam and Price said it after the game, like they're not one to take moral victories, but if I'm going to go off on a beaten path, I'm going to say that there's a lot of really good things to take from tonight in a game where the foul disparity was wide and large. I'm never a blame the referees type of guy, but I thought there was some really big missed calls, maybe even on times against Nebraska, right? Like I thought one that really swayed the game, and I think it did because it gave Michigan the lead at one point, was the no call on Sam Hoiberg. I felt like that was one where Sam was set, predetermined, was ready to go. He was outside the restricted area, and just there was no whistle. And it's weird for me to say this, that I'd be okay if they called it on Sam. I don't think it would have been a blocking foul. I thought Sam was set, and I can tell you that Fred Hoiberg believed that Sam was set too. And they felt like it should have been a charge. It felt like, he goes, I don't know what else Sam's supposed to do in that case. And I think that's one of a few different areas and times of the game that you can look at and say, okay, Nebraska had to fight through a lot of adversity tonight.
Nick, I would say that call stands out. The 3 box out fouls on Cale Jacobson seemed a little funky, especially the first one in either half. The first one of the game was really weird. The first one in the second half, I thought stood out to me as odd. Let me ask you, since you were there, did you notice any change in Nebraska's body language or mentality, right? Did it seem like Nebraska wore down playing, a 7-man rotation and, those 5 guys, 28 minutes or more? Do you think Nebraska held up pretty well physically, but just missed some shots at the end?
I think it was a little bit of both. I think, and it also depends on who you ask. And I know that can be a cop-out answer, but we were talking to, we were talking to Price and Sam, and they both said, they didn't feel like they ran out of gas. They felt like it was more Price, especially, was real down in the dumps. I think Price looked at that second half and goes, I missed a couple of 3-point shots from the perimeter. And Michigan did some different things against him defensively in the second half than they did in the first half. And there was some instances to where I think Price felt like he should have hit a couple of shots that normally he would have, but didn't tonight. And, if he hits one and then Berke hits one of the 3 or 4 layups that he missed to start the second half, guess what? Fred said it. Fred Hoiberg said it. He goes, we're having a different type of celebration right now. And so I think it's partially that. And then I think Fred did say that he felt like they ran out of gas. Going into the game here, Austin, let's be honest. We were expecting, all right, if there's a guy that's going to step up and keep Nebraska in this game off the bench, we knew it'd probably be Cale Jacobson if Rink was able to go. But if not, it was going to be Jared Garcia. And we didn't see Jared Garcia because the matchup was not there for him. He got rushed in the first half and you could tell he wanted to just put up a shot and wasn't able to. And so I don't think he played a single minute in the second half.
So he's in the second half box score, officially 0 minutes. So but I feel like we saw him maybe just for that short segment. Maybe Michigan called a timeout and it wasn't a full minute, but I still think that would go down in the box score as a 1. Nick, let's talk about, though, the guy that did make an impact off the bench then, Leo Curtis. I mean, obviously 6 points on 3 of 4, his first point since North Dakota. Was a rim deterrent at times. I thought there were sometimes he looked a little jumpy defensively, a little heavy footed other times. But for a guy that has only seen mop-up duty, only played, the last minute and change of games, the fact that Leo Curtis gave Nebraska anything at all, I thought was impressive enough in its own right.
100%. And I think that's one of the moral victories that I think Fred Hoiberg is taking away, because I know he is, because he mentioned it in the post game. I mean, they talked about the work that Leo puts in. And Austin, I mean, here's the deal, man. Like he was able to hit a couple of turnaround hook shots, or hook shots, I guess, over his right shoulder with the left hand. That he hit that a couple of times, and I was sitting up here, and I was like, okay, you know what? If Nebraska's going to win this game, they're going to need things like that, right? They're going to need some misses from Michigan in a game that they're maybe a little bit lacking in the depth department. That's what I should say, right? If Rink and Braden are available, then you don't need Leo Curtis in this game. But I think in a game like tonight, you did. And I think also we maybe cut Leo some slack a little bit, because we have to remember who he was going up against. I mean, this was not a New Hampshire team. This was not a North Dakota team where you might be taller than them. You might not be as skilled, but just from the situation of the talent that he was going against, I applaud and pat Leo on the back quite a bit tonight.
This is a game, Nick, where Nebraska got up by 11 points. It was 31-20 there in the first half. Michigan immediately got it down to 31-25. But the largest run for either team was 6, right? And you see that, Nebraska blew an 11-point lead, or Michigan stormed back from down double figures. I have a hard time viewing it that way, right? This was a game that when you look at 50-48, you're not going to think it was very hard fought and physical. I think it was, even though there were a lot of points being scored. And then obviously things slow way down. Just 6 points scored in that first segment after halftime. But I go back to neither team with a run of more than 6 points either way, right? It wasn't a game of runs, and that's where maybe Nebraska had opportunities, especially in that first half, to maybe stretch that lead to 14 or potentially to 15 points. Now, they never let an explosive Michigan team get back in it. They only allow 5 fast break points to the top transition team in the country. But did it feel like the heavyweight fight that it looked like in the arena, like we saw watching here from home?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. I think, this was a dog fight. I mean, this had the feel of the games that I'm sure as a Duke supporter, Austin, I'm sure like this felt like a late March, early April type of game. And from what we watch on TV, and what I say by that is dudes in the first half, they were just hitting shots. Like things were knocking down, and Nebraska was able to answer every single, I thought for 17 minutes of this, or excuse me, I guess it'd be 37 minutes of this game. Nebraska had an answer every single time. Every single time Nebraska was able to calm the crowd. They would get up on their feet if Michigan pulled within 3, and it would get pretty loud in here. And I do give this place credit. It is a really cool basketball venue, and it got loud when it needed to. But I looked at this and I thought, I was like, man, Nebraska every time, whether it's Cale Jacobson, whether it was Sam Hoiberg, whether it was Price in the first half, especially maybe more so than in the second half, every time Nebraska allowed Michigan to get within 5 or 3, that they always had an answer up until the end of the game. And that's, I think, one of the things that might be disappointing, because it's something that I think for a guy like Price, he said in the post game, he just feels like he's a big part of why it slipped away.
I can understand a guy talking like that. Hard of me to think that, especially when he's been playing the minute load that he has, taking the shot load that he has against a defense that's longer, more athletic than any he's faced. And he's top of the scouting report, maybe even with Rink masked on the court. Nick, last thing before we take a break, hope you'll be able to stick around for the next segment as well.
Yeah.
There's a point in that first half where Michigan brought it back to within 2. I think it was 44-42 toward the end of the first half. Price Sanford hits back-to-back threes to get Nebraska up 50-42. And just like they ended up doing in the second half, Michigan goes on a 6-0 run to end the first half. Nebraska called a timeout. They tried to go 2 for 1. And in a game with the margin as slim as this, to me, obviously the second half the late second half execution, the last 2.5-3 minutes will stand out. I mean, you can't go scoreless for the final 3 minutes of a Big Ten game, let alone top 5 game you can't expect to win. But man, if Nebraska had been able to convert on even one of those 2 possessions there at the end of the first half and go in, up 4 or up 5, even if Michigan gets the little tip lob to Mara, you just feel like, okay, you have a couple possessions of cushion. I think that 6-0 run to end the first half, because it was a couple unforced errors, might loom just as large as the 3-minute drought at the end of the second half.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think I also I look at, in all honesty, the way that Nebraska started the second half too. I mean, it was they had it was missed layup by Cale Jacobson, missed bunny by Berke, missed layup by Berke off of a turnover, missed jumper by Leo Curtis. That was in the first 4 minutes of the game of the second half. And I think we Fred's talked about it before. We've seen one of the things that Nebraska's done so well, especially on the road, has been controlling that middle 10 that they talk about. And when you're not doing it in the first half, you got to make sure you kind of double down and are able to do it in the second half. And they weren't able to really start. Now, to their credit, they didn't really allow Michigan to go on a run, like you said. But when it's all said and done, it just feels like they were just a couple short. And I tweeted this out, and I feel like it's accurate, and I don't feel like it's too far to go. Austin, Nebraska showed that they're going to be competing on a national stage. And it goes to my point of, I understand Husker fans want that NCAA tournament victory, but this team deserves to have higher expectations and deserves to have a higher ceiling than just, hey, let's make it to the round of 32.
I completely agree. And we got a bunch of texts to that effect. Let's talk about where Nebraska goes from here. Next game will be Sunday at home against Illinois. Where Nick's going to go here probably tomorrow is home to the Lincoln Airport. American Airlines is back at the Lincoln Airport, bringing new nonstop flights from Lincoln to Dallas, Fort Worth, and Chicago O'Hare coming up here in June of 2026. They're also adding seasonal winter service with American Airlines to Phoenix starting in winter of 2026. Tickets on sale now. Big thanks to the Lincoln Airport for helping get us where we need to go. Nick Sainert from Ann Arbor, Austin Norman, Harrison Arons back at 1040 O Street. Another segment of Nebraska basketball postgame after this.
With UBT, you've got total control over your money. Like Doug, who runs his game day tailgate like a well-oiled machine.
I got burgers, brats, chicken, dogs, plus all the fixins. And with the UBT Go app, I can track my food spending from anywhere.
Pro move.
They don't call me Grill Sergeant for nothing.
No matter your goals, UBT helps you feel good about reaching them. Union Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
A membership with John Henry's will fast track you to front of the line service, seasonal tune-ups, and far fewer unexpected moments. That means no breakdowns, no waiting on a call, and no nonsense. It's consistent care that prevents small issues from turning into big bills. Join the Comfort Club and get VIP treatment 365 days a year with 24-hour priority response, member-only discounts, and peace of mind on your home's most expensive systems. Call John Henry's.
John Henry's Plumbing, heating and air.
And electrical.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Koppel Chevrolet GMC. And wow, what a year it was at Koppel. The Koppel family would like to say thank you for a record-setting sales year in 2025. Now let's start 2026 off with the bang. New GMC Sierra pickups starting at $12,500 off list or 0% APR. Also hot off the presses, new Terrain leases at $299 per month. That's right, $299 per month on new GMC Terrain leases. So please stop on in the store or online at koppelcars.com. Stock numbers G138852 and G165184, 2,500 down with proof credit.
MHC isn't a new company, just a new name. Moe's Moving is now Moe's Home and Commercial. Whether moving across town or across the state, MHC Moving has you covered, specializing in home, apartment, assisted, and independent living moves. MHC can handle your commercial moves as well. MHC Moving has 0 hidden fees. You'll never pay for same-day booking or be charged for stairs, heavy items, or elevator fees. Rates are the same Monday through Saturday, and you will never pay a truck or fuel surcharge. And they offer payment plans through PayPal. Call MHC Moving today at 402-853-7167 or go to mhcmoving.com.
Have you been looking for home technology upgrades but don't know where to turn? Online information can be contradicting and confusing. Lincoln's own experts at Diode Technologies can turn your living room into the place to watch your favorite sports. Whatever your vision is, Diode Tech is ready to make it a reality. From home theaters to outdoor entertainment spaces, they bring you along through the entire process to make sure you get exactly what you want. If you're ready to upgrade your entertainment space, visit Diode Tech online at diodetech.net or give them a call at 402-793-5124.
Things that impair you come in many different shapes and sizes. Some are the shape of beer and liquor bottles. Others look like cigarettes but aren't cigarettes at all. These are the things we know impair us, the things our parents warned us about. What we're not always aware of is our new prescription, or the over-the-counter medicine we picked up just for allergies or a bad cold. See, it doesn't just matter how much of a substance you take. If you are impaired, driving is deceptively dangerous. Don't drive impaired. Paid for by the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Let's fly. Your next trip starts at Lincoln Airport with American Airlines. Now flying nonstop service to Dallas, Fort Worth, and Chicago. American Airlines connects Lincoln to major hubs and destinations around the globe. Wherever you're headed, LNK gets you there with new nonstop flights on American Airlines.
Now boarding.
Convenient, fast, and stress-free. Book your next flight at LincolnAirport.com. LNK, make flying easy.
Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services is here to help you protect things that are most important to you. Whether it's your home, your family, or your future, Jack Russell has the proven experience to get the job done while developing authentic relationships with you. Give Jack a call today at 402-421-9100. Again, that's 402-421-9100. Or visit one of his 2 locations in Lincoln or Seward and learn how you can excel in the complicated world of insurance. Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, a trusted and well-respected representative since 1999.
Now back to the post-game post-up on 93.7 The Ticket. Post-game coverage of Nebraska basketball on The Ticket is sponsored by Union Bank and Trust, the Lincoln Airport, Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, and John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical. It's the post-game post-up on 93.7 The Ticket.
Welcome back into Disney Nebraska men's basketball postgame. Austin Orman back home in the 402. Nick Sainert up in Ann Arbor. Nebraska falls to Michigan. The 20-game win streak this season comes to an end. 24 in a row comes to an end as well. 75-72 Wolverines win it. Big thanks to Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services for his help sponsoring our postgame coverage. He's been with Farm Bureau since 1999. Give Jack and his team a call today to learn how they can make it easy to protect the things that are most important to you, your home, family, farm, and future. That number for Jack Russell, 402-421-9100. Jack and his team look forward to showing you how simple insurance can be. Bring in Nick Sainert again. He is up in Ann Arbor. Nick, I think the other thing that stands out to me about just the way that this game was played, really good game flow in the first half, not a lot of stoppages. And we know Fred Hoiberg talks about not wanting to take the ball out of the basket, but there was a really free-flowing first half that was played the way Nebraska wanted it to. That was a Nebraska tempo sort of game. The second half devolved into a rock fight, and those have really never featured Nebraska, especially when you're down 2 guys, you're beat up, you're at the end of the rope. But it's also, let's just play the kind of quote-unquote normal Nebraska game. What if this had been a 27-22 first half, right? And Michigan, it was up by 5 at the break, and then Nebraska opened things up in the second half, but they end up just a possession short. We'd be praising them in the same way. It would feel more like a Nebraska men's basketball game. There have been a couple times recently. I mean, I would throw like the end of the first half against Oregon in there. Washington, Nebraska played really well in the first half, and then Washington was more competitive in the second. Nebraska is still one of the best second half teams in the country, and that's all true. But I think with this Nebraska team, too, you can't turn down the points when they come, right? I think we're all waiting for Nebraska to go on that big run, even against a good Michigan team. But it's just kind of a different feeling for Husker fans when the second half wasn't dominated by Nebraska. Nebraska didn't pull away and put a lot of distance. And for the first time all year, Nebraska didn't make that 1 or 2 big play moment, come to fruition down the stretch.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I don't know if you guys have had a conversation about the officiating yet. I don't know if you guys have. I'm sure you did at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, like, here's the thing. I just looked at it to confirm. There were 4 fouls called in the first minute and 49 seconds of the second half. And I looked at this and that plays a factor into this. That plays a factor into trying to be able to get going. I think you're right, though, about the vibe of what we'd be praising Nebraska, because it would feel a little bit more normal-esque. However, I think when you look at Nebraska, this is where we go back to they have continued to show that they can play in multiple ways.
because not only the game against Oklahoma where they put up 105 and had to come back, like you said, in a more normal Nebraska fashion in the second half, but then I go back to the second half a lot. Austin felt, especially the first like 10 minutes of it, felt a lot like Michigan State. It felt a lot like Michigan State did this year. And Nebraska, if you go back to that game, who did they have and who stepped up the biggest in that game? Rink Mast, who was 6 of 13 from beyond the 3-point line in that game.
And Nebraska up to its largest lead of the game at that point before the tee.
Absolutely. And I think when you looked also at, there was a moment where Berke, I want to say it was maybe 5 or 6 minutes left in the game, and Berke had a chance to put Nebraska up by 3 because the game was tied somewhere. I might have been at 72 all. Either way, Berke had a 3 from the left wing that you cannot pass up. Like anybody on a Fred Hoiberg team, whether you're a big, like it was later in the shot clock, like you could not pass it up. But in normal circumstances, you'd almost imagine, okay, would that be Rink? And like you can't make these excuses, but it's hard not to allow your mind to kind of wander into that area of going, okay, sure, Berke hit one earlier, but in normal situations, would that have been Rinke? Could you have been okay and drawn up something for Rink from the left wing like that and have him shoot one? Would Michigan have defended him deeper so it would have opened up something inside? Like, there's so many things that your mind can wander just because of the lack of, Braden Frager and Rink and Oogie and Connor Sejan and Sam Hoiberg was sick. And like, it's just, there's a lot that was going against Nebraska before they even stepped on the floor.
And yet they lose it by only 3 points. And that's what I want to hit on here in just a sec. My take on the refs, just big picture, is no, it wasn't perfect. I didn't think it was egregious. I would also say Michigan made a much more concerted effort to go inside, and that's where some of those fouls came, especially late. And Nebraska, I said this with DP on Old School, and I think Chris on our Starter Heyman Jewelers text line, he says, my biggest question is why when Nebraska was struggling from behind the arc did they keep shooting jump shots and threes instead of driving to the basket? Number one, that's an emphasis of Fred Hoiberg is to not challenge shot blockers, right? Adaimara is elite at that. Michigan recruited him from UCLA for a reason. Merez Johnson Jr., also pretty good at it, right? Whether he's at the 4 or at the 5, he's a brick wall. And so you don't want to go in there recklessly challenging and just saying, get to the rim just to get to the rim. But that's where I mentioned this with DP Nick, the Cale Jacobson mid-range game was good. Jamarcus Lawrence, I thought could have had a couple opportunities, but it was hard to get to those shots because Michigan did a good job of staying attached, not letting Nebraska, get by to that 1 or 2 dribble pull up very easily. And so, the refs weren't perfect. They were a factor. But so is going 1 of 13 from 3. Nebraska, I think, could have done more to press the issue and try to get Michigan's shot blockers in trouble. I think maybe they swung too far the other way sometimes. Being, I don't want to say passive, I don't want to say scared, but I think in some cases Nebraska was trying maybe too hard to make the right play and look like they weren't challenging the shot blocker. Maybe almost too deferential to the reputation that Michigan's big guys had in some cases, because there are 2 ways that you can make sure a shot blocker doesn't affect the game. Number 1 is to not drive at him. And number 2 is to get him in foul trouble and get him out of the game. Nebraska didn't really make an effort to get downhill very often. They got points in the paint off the really great motion and cuts, but Nebraska wasn't able to put its head down and drive against a long athletic defense.
I think you're absolutely right about that. I think the other thing that is important to note, you mentioned the Fred Hoiberg characteristics. Nebraska had to go, and Fred especially had to go against some of those tonight, especially in the first half. Nebraska is, I believe, I looked up the statistic of they are 127th out of 136 teams in when guys have 2 fouls, having them in the game in the first half. And there's like a metric that matches that, because Austin, you and I both know it, that Fred Hoiberg always pulls guys and never allows them to play in the first half once they pick up 2 fouls. He had that with Cale Jacobson. There was a lot of instances tonight where Nebraska had to leave Jamarcus Lawrence in there for a little bit longer than maybe they wanted to, or they were trying to limp to the next media timeout just to give somebody enough break. Like there was a moment in the first half, Berke was going up and he was struggling at first with the pace of the game, and he was gassed going down the floor. And then that's when Leo came in, and Leo was able to provide some massive minutes for Nebraska. So like there was a lot of uncharacteristic approaches, but it worked out for Nebraska. And I think that should give Husker fans hope, because Fred Hoiberg did some opposites of what he normally would do if he had, obviously all of his personnel available.
Well, yeah, I mean, his back was against the wall. He only had so many options that you could go to. I was a little surprised Jared Garcia didn't get a little bit more run just to give those guys a break, but you needed Berke's, I think, especially communication on the defensive end and ability to rebound the basketball. I was a little surprised not to see Kendall Blue, even just in spot minutes. Yeah. That's a guy that doesn't have the best plus minus on Nebraska's team. But you're telling me Kendall Blue couldn't have given Nebraska, a 2-minute stretch here or a 90-second stretch there. I'm not there. I'm not Fred Hoiberg. He knows his guys. He made the choices that he thought he did. But man, it just leads you to wonder. I mean, Kendall Blue hit that three against Minnesota. Thought maybe you had the Hollywood story cooking, with Frager out, and that didn't come to fruition. Ultimately, it's a 3-point loss for Nebraska. Let's go ahead and call for a station ID right here. We'll continue with some post-game coverage in just a second on 93.7 The Ticket.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet. KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
Austin Norman, Harrison Arns, Nick Sainer with you here on Nebraska men's basketball postgame. And Nick, we've said the no moral victories thing, but we have a lot of a text to that effect here on our Starter Heyman Jewelers text line and some national reaction to that as well. So Isaac says, hey, fellas, down 2 of Nebraska's top 6. They're fine, even though it's an L. I actually feel more confident in this team than I did before GBR. JC, proud of the team. They fought hard. Michigan took away the good 3-ball looks in the second half. Now time to see how they respond against Illinois. How much does Nebraska beat Michigan by if they have Mast and Frager from 1996? 1584, GBR, we just proved we are legit. Those are Husker fans texting in and saying that. And the national reaction. Seth Davis for Hoops headquarters. He'll be on CBS Sports' desk during the NCAA tournament. That was one of the gutsiest performances I've seen all season. This Nebraska team has all caps heart, just came up a bucket short. The undefeated season is over, but this team has bigger goals to chase. John Rothstein, we learned more about Nebraska tonight than anyone else. Huskers went to Ann Arbor without 2 of their top 6 players and outplayed Michigan for the majority of the game. There are no moral victories, but Fred Hoiberg's team proved it's good enough to win the Big Ten. Let's start on that, the no moral victories point. I think 2 things can be true, Nick. Number one is that, this game was essentially gravy for Nebraska, kind of like Illinois was for the first Big Ten road game of the year. Nebraska's off to the hot start. You go to a team that's highly regarded, has been in this position before. Nebraska won it against Illinois. Nebraska lost it against Michigan. This game doesn't change anything about Nebraska's outlook for the rest of this season, right? They are still way ahead of schedule, if you want to call it that. They're still on pace for everything they want to accomplish, whether it's a Big Ten regular season championship, the double or maybe triple bye, depending on how that 18-team bracket looks in the Big Ten tournament in Chicago. And at the very least, right now, a top 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. None of that is out the window. It is all still on the table for Nebraska. This is still a historic run to start the season. The flip side of that is this game can't just be gravy if the standard's going to improve for this program, right? If you say, oh, well, this game didn't really matter and, we were close and we'll get them next time. Just imagine what if. It's still got to suck to lose the game. You still got to be driven by it because you had 7 guys that fought to the end. And yes, you did outplay Michigan, for call it 37 minutes, right? You led for 36 minutes of this game. You bring the context into it, but I think if we think that this is what Nebraska can be with some regularity under Fred Hoiberg, or at least, a team that's crossing the 20-win threshold in the regular season, 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 5 years under Fred Hoiberg, you can take the moral victory and be proud of the guys, and you're 100% right with that. But the way that the Husker fans and the Husker players and coaching staff talks about this team is going to be how people nationally talk to them about it. So you have to be both proud and even more motivated to work harder so that, even when your backs are this far against the wall, it doesn't come down to moral victory talk, especially in a season that's shaping up to be as special as it seems like it's going to be for Nebraska.
I'll be honest with you guys. I'm in no way concerned about, diving too far into the moral victory piece of it for this team. In fact, Sam Hoiberg and Price were actually asked about it after the game, and they immediately shut it down. Fred was the one that actually welcomed it and said, yeah, you know what? I told the guys, like, there's things that we can take from this. You made a great point. Nothing changes, right? Like, and that's kind of what I was referring to at the beginning of the game, before the game even started. I talked about it with AD this morning of like, all right, let's say Nebraska is competitive in what they were tonight's game. Then guess what? You still come back home and you're going to have a top 15 matchup or top 10 matchup, whatever it is, against Illinois on Sunday. And guess what? Top 5 teams go on the road and lose to other top 5 teams often. That's just part of basketball. It is so difficult to do all the undefeated pieces of it. It's so difficult to go on the road and consistently win. And I think it's just important just to know, while Nebraska had a lot of deficiencies and there were a lot of mistakes that Nebraska did make and things that were in their control and out of their control, they came into an environment where they were 1-8 in their time before this game in the Big Ten Conference against Michigan, and you would not have noticed it. I think once again, I keep going back to, this is a veteran team. Veteran teams have success in March and have success when it matters most. And that gives me, and I think it should give Nebraska fans a lot of excitement, because guess what? The ability to stay cool, calm, and collected, poised when things go awry, or when things 12 minutes before the game even starts pop up and it's going to be a negative piece towards your team. Guess what? The ability to stay cool, calm, and collected and poised and still come out here and act like nothing ever happened is a really, really good characteristic to have when you're coming down the stretch of the season.
I could even argue that this was the best game that Nebraska's ever played in Ann Arbor. They had their first win there at the end of the 23-24 season against that really bad end of the Juwan Howard tenure team. They won at 85-70 against, again, just an atrocious Michigan team. But the other games, I guess they had an 85-79 game against the 21-22 Michigan team there. Other than that, it's been, all double digits for Michigan in victories over Nebraska, essentially in the Big Ten era. Nebraska hasn't played this program well. They've never played well in that building, and they proved a lot tonight. And I think, Nick, the important piece here is we start turning our eyes to wrapping up so we can get Raph on the air here. The thing that I think stands out the most, you mentioned, veterans, leadership, mature, poised, all that stuff. It's easy to say once Mast and Frager get back. And obviously, that's going to be a big shot in the arm for Nebraska. Hopefully save their legs a little bit here, right? Being able to be off of them in the meat grinder that is, late January into early February of any conference, but especially a conference as deep and talented as the Big Ten. That's all true. But, there is just as good a chance that Nebraska would have lost this game without Rink Mast and Braden Frager. And I think the conversation I want to have next would still apply, regardless of who Nebraska had or didn't have. The difference in the mental makeup of this team compared to last year's team is striking. There's no fear. There's no sense in anyone that I've talked to, heard from, that, okay, well, now we got to hold our breath. How dicey are things going to get? I think some of that is because he had 2 guys out with injury. You can hang your hat on that. It's simple, convenient, and quick. But we've also seen enough resilience from this Nebraska team that they're not going to go on a 6-game losing streak. They're not going to find ways to beat themselves or find ways to come up one play short. When this team gets down to it, they're not going to lose, 5 games at the end of the year to miss out on, back-to-back NCAA tournaments like last year's team did, regardless of who's available or unavailable for this Nebraska team. I think this group is in such a healthier headspace that it's reassuring and comforting to Husker fans who are understandably disappointed and bummed that the nation's longest winning streak had to come to an end, that you had your chance as a top 5 team to go on the road and get a victory and give yourself, another couple days of sole possession of first place in the Big Ten instead of falling back into a tie and now, tiebreakers behind Michigan. But there's no sense of panic. There's no sense of hold our breath and see what happens. This Nebraska team feels like it's on incredibly stable footing right now, which is such a marked departure from even 365 days ago.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And I think that should give Husker fans so much excitement. They should be all in. If you weren't already all in on this and buying about what this team could do, whether it's in the Big Ten tournament or whether it's in the big tournament, in the NCAA tournament in March, I mean, like this should have shown you that Nebraska is going to be a force to be reckoned with. And I think for once, like, Nebraska's sitting here and they're going to be the conversation for other teams that go, man, we just don't want to play Nebraska because they just do so many of the things well. Like, we come into this game, all right, even with Rink Mast and no Braden Frager, okay, what are the keys to victory for Nebraska, right? It's take care of the basketball, force turnovers against a team that only commits 12 of them a game. Is try to slow down the pace and the transition offense that Michigan does so well. This is a Michigan team that's top 10 in both offensive and defensive efficiency. Like, you're talking about a national championship contender. And really, this one of the first times I think since Michigan State, I would say, that Nebraska has had a chance to kind of see where they measure up against a fellow national championship contender. And I say fellow because Nebraska should be in that conversation. Nebraska should be at least in that conversation because they showed tonight that down two of their very key players, they still did all the little things right.
Ken Pom is not the gospel. It's not the end-all, be-all. But this Michigan team, after tonight's performance, has a net rating of plus 35.65, which is incredible. Number 2 in the country. Nebraska, like I said, moved up and now has moved up a couple spots. Nebraska is now top 10 in the Ken Pomeroy ratings with a plus 28.8 rating. But that rating for Michigan, right, 35.65, if we go back to last year, that's right in line with what a lot of people were calling the best Final Four of all time. When you have those 4 1 seeds in there, all with a rating of plus 35 or better, you know, Michigan's really good. They've beaten a lot of good teams, especially early in the year, by 40 plus points. And Nebraska went into Ann Arbor, went into the Chrysler Center shorthanded, and proved just how cohesive they can be. You saw the best of that offensive system, especially in the first half, and then even with that Lawrence layup late. Nothing for Nebraska to hang its head about. But, Nick, I'll ask you this. Is it as simple as get rink mass healthy for Sunday against Illinois? Anything else that Nebraska might want to clean up or improve on between really Wednesday and then Sunday morning before the Illini come to town?
I think, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I had some connection issues for a second there. I think it's get rink back to health. I think it's also Sam Hoiberg is still battling some stuff since Minnesota. We knew he played Minnesota a little under the weather, right? But even in the post game, he kind of admitted that he was still battling some of the stuff there. I asked Fred Hoiberg, I said, you know, hey, look, outside the injuries, apart from the injuries, like obviously there's a little bit of sickness going around. And I was like, you know, is that a concern for you guys right now? And his answer was just like, you know, look, I think it's always a concern. I think it's, you know, he goes, it just depends on what guys are dealing with. He said, we have part of the team, he's like, myself included, dealing with some of the head cold stuff. He said some of the guys, Rinks is more of the stomach thing. So he's like, you know, I think it's a concern for everybody. And so I think, you know, Fred mentioned it yesterday in his press conference, Austin, and I know you heard it about, you know, this is the 3rd straight game of 2-day prep. And this now going into Illinois, they're going to get back, you know, late tonight. They'll you know, do rest and recover, all that tomorrow. And then you have Thursday, Friday, Saturday to get ready. And I think a big part of that is, sure, the rehab of Braden Frager and where he's at. And you hope that maybe he can give you a little bit. But this is also a season that you're going to be playing for a lot more than just to the second week of March. And you have to be smart and you have to be cognizant in that stuff and not rush guys back. Because guess what? Tonight just showed, even if you can go, I don't say you want to go without Braden Frager, but if you do, there's still avenues for you to win. And you just got to get a little healthier maybe on the sickness front as well.
Michigan 75, Nebraska 72. Elsewhere in the Big Ten, it's Indiana with a 13-point lead over Purdue approaching the second half U6 in Bloomington. So you can be a top 5 team, go on the road and lose. You can be a top 15 team, go on the road and lose in the Big Ten. Ultimately, Nebraska now 20-1 on the season, 9-1 in the Big Ten. Nick, appreciate you hopping on. Enjoy the rest of your evening and safe travels back, my friend.
Thank you, my friends. We'll talk to you guys when we get back to Lincoln tomorrow.
That's Nick Sainer. He'll make it back to Lincoln thanks to our friends at the Lincoln Airport for sponsoring a bunch of our travel. Dio Technologies as well, making sure that we are covered on our trips. Union Bank and Trust, John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical, Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services also helping sponsor Postgame. For Nick, for Harrison, I'm Austin. We'll talk more about this game tomorrow, and I'm sure throughout the course of the rest of the night. A few more hours of Ticket Weeknights on tap after this.
Let's fly.